What's going on, everyone? Vasco here and welcome back to the channel. And it just happened after race of close wheel-to-wheel battle, after we saw close wheel-to-wheel racing in the sprint race yesterday. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton just came together in the British Grand Prix. So in this video I'm going to analyze the crash and tell you my opinion on whether Hamilton should have received the penalty and how lucky he was to escape that accident without being in the wall. But firstly, I really want to tell you that I'm very glad that Max is okay. I know he went to the hospital and I wish him all the best, and I think that whoever you support, you need to wish Max Verstappen the best, because that was a very big crash, and according to WTF1, he reached 51 Gs. So that meant that his body weight for that split second weighed 51 times what it normally does, and that's a force that I cannot really even imagine, so I hope Max is okay. But now let's actually analyze the footage and see who was at fault, if anyone. Okay, so now here in the computer with you guys, what I can do is actually analyze the race highlights, because it's the only footage I can show from the race. And let me tell you what I think happened here. So firstly, you can see that they both got a very similar getaway, but that I think Lewis got a slightly better getaway because he was in second place, and as you can see here in the first corner, he was right alongside Max. And what we saw for the next few corners was actually a very good, incredible in my opinion, wheel-to-wheel fight between two of the best drivers that we have seen ever in Formula 1. And you can see that through the battle, through the stages of this lap, they touched a few times. The racing was very close, wheel to wheel. You see a touch right there, and they were really close. It was a real nice battle, but as you can see right here in this corner, it was really on the limit. They were on the limit of what is acceptable, and this is what we want to see. The best drivers fighting head to head and fighting really hard. And that's what we got in the sprint race yesterday, and that's what we were getting here in the first lap. But as we get to the Anger straight, you can see that Lewis Hamilton actually gets a very nice slipstream, and Charles Leclerc actually, but he was smart and pulled back. And Lewis gets a very good split stream. And what happened was that he was able to pull alongside Max in the Anger straight. And this is a crucial moment, because by this point, the cars are side by side, and now it's where the fun begins. So you can see that Lewis is coming down the inside, whilst Max, knowing that Lewis is there, reaches to the outside. But doing this move around cops is really risky for Lewis, because he's throwing a move down the inside of a very fast sweeping right hand corner, which means that he won't be able to make the ideal racing line and he won't be able to reach the full speed that he wants. But still, Lewis didn't win 7 world champions because he does bad moves. He won 7 world champions because he does the moves that 99.99% of the drivers won't make, and he does. So it was a risky move, but it could pay off. And then immediately here you can see that there is contact, you can see sparks flying, and then Max goes into the wall. But here is the replay that I want you guys to see. So if you go around here to 1 minute and 19, you can see that they were pretty much alongside at the entry of the corner. Lewis was a bit back, but still right here you can see that their cars were alongside. Lewis had way more than the front wing and the front axle alongside Max, so both of them were entitled to the corner. It was Max's corner to take because he was in front, but still Lewis had to be left racing room here. And Lewis's move was really risky, and it's a move that I didn't expect him to make, but once he did, he really had no option but to continue. So by now, Lewis's trajectory is pretty much set in stone, and this is one occasion where Lewis is passing a clear message to Verstappen, that is, you cannot put the car wherever you want, I will fight you. And this is what you want to see, the best drivers fighting wheel to wheel. But now if you look at it, Lewis is really making the only trajectory that he can, because the corner is such high speed that the car will naturally be thrown to the outside. So there's nothing that Max could do here, there's nothing that Lewis could do here to avoid their current trajectories. Now what I think happens right here in the point right before contact is that Max doesn't really realize how close Lewis is to him and closes the door just that tiny little bit too much, and then we all know the rest. His wheel got off the rim actually got broken, and he was thrown into the wall. So what I think that happened right here was that both drivers kind of made a mistake. So Lewis was actually over ambitious in his move, because no one really throws it at the inside at cops, and later in the race he managed to do that very same move to Charles and got past him, but at that point in the race the Ferrari and the Mercedes had a really different pace, so it was much easier for Lewis to do that, and Charles was expecting a much faster car to go down his inside. So it's not the same as when it's your title rival. And you can see that I think that Lewis made an overambitious move that maybe he shouldn't have made. He probably could have passed him in the younger straight with the advantage of speed that he was getting. But I also think that Max didn't leave enough racing room for Lewis, because you can see that Lewis has enough space to throw the car down the inside and not hit Max. But also with the natural way that these cars work, Lewis's car was always going to be pushed to the outside, and I think that Max just flicked a tiny little bit too soon and too much to the right, and that was what caused the collision. And you can see that Max just turned in a little less. Both cars wouldn't have touched, or it would be Max to get a penalty but for collecting Lewis's front wing. So you can see that these drivers are actually fighting on really narrow margins, and it's really difficult to evaluate a millimetric difference from that speed and from those angles with those tiny mirrors. So had Max just turned the wheel a little bit less, had Lewis just turned the wheel a little bit more, this accident wouldn't have happened and we would have had an epic fight for the rest of the race. So we are talking about millimetric margins, and even though these are the best drivers in the world, even they cannot get it right 100% of the time. And so in my opinion, it's really no one's fault. Max could have taken action in order for this accident not to happen, and Lewis could also have taken action in order for this accident not to happen. And one of the things that the stewards really failed to do was that they evaluated the penalty based on the consequences and not on the action. So you cannot attribute a penalty based on what happens to both cars. You need to give the penalties based on the action and the incident itself. And the incident itself was a first lap racing incident. Both drivers could have avoided it. Okay, one of them ended up in the wall, the other went to win the race, but that's not really what's being evaluated. What's being evaluated is this moment right here, this split second. And in this split second, both drivers could have done something. And that's why I think that Lewis's penalty was harsh. I actually tweeted during the race that I hope no penalties were applied. I didn't think it was fair to attribute penalties for this kind of situation. And I think that the stewards are really pushing it with the penalties, and they are giving way too many penalties, because this was a racing incident. The very same thing could have happened at Spain. If you look at the start of the 2021 Spanish Grand Prix, Max just puts his car in front of Lewis, and again, had Max or Lewis not given him another inch or another millimeter to fight, or turned the wheel a little bit more, we could have ended up in the very same situation. And I think that an incident like this was kind of inevitable after Lewis and Max fighting race after race after race and being so clean race after race. Don't forget that these drivers have emotions, and both of them really want to win this championship and really want to prove to the other that they are the best. So those are my opinions. I really think that this was a racing incident and that none of the drivers are to blame, and that the drivers are fighting over really fine margins, and that this kind of accident is really bound to happen sometimes. I think we will see it again during this season, and I really hope the stewards really start giving the penalties based on the action and not on the consequences. So let me know in the comments down below, and be civil right there, who you think that should have gotten a penalty out of this situation and who you think was at fault, and whether the penalty on Lewis was adequate. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. And if you want something to watch after this, please check out my technical analysis of the 2022 car that Formula 1 just unveiled. I will leave a card right here. And that's been it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you this week with my analysis of the sprint race format. Goodbye.